Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're just kind of catching up on September and seeing what everybody wants to talk about. Hello. So, do I sound okay? Give me a sound check. That'd be great. Good. Okay. All right. Let me get this out to everybody. And can't hear crickets tonight. No, I'm actually inside. I can't do these from the shop. It's too far away. So, we end up doing this stuff inside. Oh, wow. Thank you, Adam. And thank you, Lisa F. Audio is going well. Okay, good. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, darn. So I had a whole bunch of people tell me that I never do these on the weekend. So here we are. Sadly, I don't actually really have much to talk about. I mean, other than everything that's going on today. So we're we're just kind of hanging out. Yeah, it was definitely entertaining yesterday, though. The little fail flotilla that went on. The mic seems hot. Yeah, it's funny. I had one of those high-end headsets, and nobody could hear me. This is like an $8 one from Walmart, and it apparently does better, which is funny. But Fox is having an internal war. Yeah, it's entertaining. I want to talk about the absurd boat people in the Panhandle. You know, I don't see many Trump flags around here. I don't know where these people live. Let's talk about Labor Day. No, I'm going to do an episode on Labor Day for Labor Day. So I don't want to ruin it. Thank you, Michael Z. They're underwater. Yeah, that is what it is right there. Thank you, James Wesley. Thank you, buddy. Need more voices like yours? Yes, we do. There should be more. Everybody can start a YouTube channel, and people will be able to reach people that others can't. So, I mean, I think it's a good thing. They live in my neighborhood in Pensacola. Lots and lots of flags and yards. In Pensacola, really? I figured that Phil Air would be just kind of wiping the floor with them out there. I really kind of saw him getting a big lead out there. That's surprising. Let's talk about the book. Yes, we will bring that up. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that now. Thank you, Anthony. Okay, so if you don't know, we have a book on the way with two, really. One is a thank you, WC Wright, and oh darn, check out Table Rock Lake in Missouri. The boat people shut up. Great. We have two coming out. One is on community networking and one is on civics. And it's basically going to go through all of the, would you be all of the founding documents of the U.S., the civics book. Would you recommend living in Florida or Texas if you are a lefty? I mean, if everybody of a certain ideological makeup just goes to one area and lives there, Keith Davies, I'm not getting prettier. No, I'm not. No. You're kind of abandoning people. It's kind of like surrender. And I don't want to give up Florida. I like Florida. Thank you, Monica. Larger boats sank smaller boats. Then, yeah, of course. I mean, that's the whole nature of our current system. It's a perfect analogy. Blame Antifa, not their bad choices. Thank you, John C. Thank you, Jennifer Godfrey. Thank you, RDX David Nunez's cow. LA County Deputy and alleges executioner gang dominates Compton Sheriff Station. That doesn't surprise me. That's been going on out there a long time. Thank you, old man. Your thoughts on In Fact yesterday? I actually didn't get to see it, and I haven't talked to. I know somebody who was there covering it, and I haven't talked to him yet, so I don't really know. I don't have an opinion. I don't even know what happened really. Like 71% of this Northwest Florida county voted for 45. Yeah, I don't know that that's going to repeat. But we'll see. I don't know. Have you heard of the local community network Discord server made for people of the fifth column? I've seen the comment. I haven't checked it out. In fact, I'm sure that Communist is going to be here at some point to remind me that I haven't been to my Discord server in like 3 weeks. Thank you, Keith Porsche. Thanks for helping my 74-year-old conservative Republican veteran father realize he was insane. Thank you, Andrew Walker. Why Trump supporters always blame black for crimes, protests, and looting, yet want to get the black vote. I'm wondering why the black supporters are really supporting Trump in higher numbers. I don't know that they are. I don't know that that's true. I think our polling is less than accurate this year in a couple of different ways. I think they're trying to overcompensate for what happened last year, assuming that there was some large failure. Let's see, Dark Energy, thank you. Or last election, because people keep saying the polls were off. The polls were off. They really weren't. Most were within the margin of error. So I don't know that the polls are incredibly accurate right now. Thank you, 10469. I think there's a habit on the side of the pollsters to try to make it more, to try to compensate for what they perceive as a failure last time, and I don't think there was one. Thank you, Sway LS. Let's talk about the pictures of the body cameras on the cops who shot. Yeah, the fact that that's still ongoing and they still haven't resolved that after this amount of time, I have a feeling that that's going to be one of those situations that it's even worse than what we're thinking. If you want to be honest, that's kind of why I've talked about it and mentioned it a few times, but judging by law enforcement's reaction to everything, it's probably even worse than everything we know. Thank you, Who Dat for Life. Chris Fields, can you do the world a favor and run for office? Yeah, no. No, I think I'm much better. I think I'm more effective doing this. Because in order to win, I would have to go to an area where people with progressive ideas would vote for me. And that isn't going to do any good. They already know. I don't know that it's actually would be helpful. Thank you, Debbie Rising. You're a breath of fresh air. You've become part of my daily routine. Thank you, Dem Studios. What skills can I learn to enter to security field without the military? Okay, yeah. So a second language is pretty much necessary. You're going to need to do that. And then look for something that isn't common. And that could be computer related skills. It could be being a pilot, fixed wing or rotary, um, anything like that that will give you an edge. If you have skills outside of what is typically considered security oriented and you want to do it, you're actually pretty likely to get hired because there aren't a lot of people. Most people get into it and then they develop those skills. Walking in with them would help you get there. Do you agree with David Pakman that Biden's cognitive decline is Russia propaganda? He's older. He's going to have some decline. Do I think it's as severe as the Trump campaign is making it out to be? No. Do I think it's non-existent? No. So I don't know. I don't know exactly what Pakman said. I do know that there was an effort to push that narrative by Russian intelligence. At least our intelligence says there was. So, I mean, whether or not you want to believe that, that's up to you. But it seems likely that there was some kind of operation to push that narrative. Okay, Jennifer, thank you, Jennifer. What are your thoughts on the People's Party? I watched the convention. I thought it was cool. I don't think it's going to have any immediate impact. I think it needs 4 years to actually produce any results. If they want it to work, if they want it to matter, they're going to have to spend the next 4 years acting like they're a major party. Thank you, T. Francient. Thank you, Adam Board. Have you done or can you do a video about ranked choice voting? I think I've mentioned it. I don't know that I've done one specifically on it. Oh, darn. Thank you for non-judgmental picks in your comment section. Be louder. Elizabeth Whetstone, thank you. RDX David Nunez Cal, thank you. I think centrists just want to be scared of Russia. I think they're capitalizing on an old fear, but Russia, China, and the U.S. are going to be engaged in espionage and counter-espionage and intelligence and counterintelligence because they're the world powers. So it's not that this stuff isn't happening. It's that we really shouldn't be surprised that it is more than anything. Every major power tries to do this to every other power. In fact, every power tries to influence another election. What matters is not that other countries are trying to influence our election. It's that we may have had instances where our candidates knowingly accepted that help, which means they were beholden to them, especially if the Foreign Intelligence Service can prove they accepted that help. Thank you. Kevin Roach wanted to say hi in person and say thank you. I apologize for any confusion, but it confused me just as much as well. Now I'm confused. I didn't know. How intense do you think the dispute over the election results will get? Depends on how decisive they are. If Trump suffers a resounding defeat, I think that'll be the end of it. If it's close, I think it's going to drag on. If he wins, I think there will probably be more violence than if he lost, because I think his supporters will be even more emboldened. D123, thank you. Anna LA, thank you. Thoughts on getting ambushed in Portland? Okay, so the task force that I understand that went after him, generally speaking, they're pretty good. So unless there's been significant changes within the last 4 years, which there very well may have been, I think we're going to find out that it wasn't really an ambush that he was going to resist. I don't know that, but I'm just going off of that particular task force's reputation. we'll see. At the same time, I don't know that I don't understand why that task force was tasked with him. It doesn't really fit the criteria that they're normally assigned. So, well, unless there's something we don't know. So there's a couple of things about that bother me. Um, the end result, I think, was kind of predicted. I think at the end of the day, I think he was ready to go, and I don't think that he was going to be taken. But that's just me. I don't really. That's just gut. I don't have anything to really base that on. Uh, Thank you, Cambray Elaine. Thank you, Katie Campbell. Thank you, Julie Pemberton. No question. My father taught me to always find a way to compensate a teacher. Thank you. Robert V. Have you ever tried biohacking? Are there any scientists, researchers in your community circle? Do you have any thoughts on setting up local community testing for future pandemics? That's outside of my range. I could help with the logistics of that. As far as biohacking stuff, there was a documentary that Ford worked on, Ford Fisher, about transhumanism, and he's really big into that. If you wanted more on that topic, I'd follow him because it's something that he really follows. I don't know if he does it, but he's definitely interested in the topic. Oh darn! Thank you, Nudge. Got it. Okay. uh, Thank you, Minx. What can I say that hasn't even said? I look forward to you dropping some knowledge on me daily and your voice freezing. Keep it up. Love from Australia. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. What will the U.S. look like in 5 years if Donald Trump is reelected? It's going to be a mess. I think that if he gets reelected, I honestly believe that we're going to have a severely authoritarian regime, and then we will have a pendulum swing back the other direction. And I don't think that it will be good. I think it'll be a mess. Do you think the NFL will honestly follow suit with other sports affiliations on social justice awareness, or is it just more? Yeah, it's probably just PR. They've had a long time to do this, but then again, maybe they're just catching up to the fact that times are changing. It's hard to make predictions like that about large organizations. I given their stance in the past, I would suggest that it's just PR. But I mean, maybe they finally had a change of heart. Thank you, Debbie Smith. Ever thought about moving out of the country? Yeah, once or twice. But again, I don't want to surrender. I'm not the one who sucked. They can leave. They suck. Thank you, Cole Hart. Just hi and hope you and yours are holding up okay. Let's see. Thank you, Jerma Reed. Thoughts on groups like Deacons for Defense to protect Black communities from those looking to do us harm. I am a big proponent of civil defense groups of any kind. In fact, I have a video in which it's literally nothing but answering questions from Black Americans who are setting one up. The difference between doing it for your community and doing it as solely for a Black community is the rules you have to play by. If you are doing it for a Black community and it's openly for that, you've got to be 100%. You have a lot more rules you have to follow at all times because they're gonna be looking for a reason to come after you. I think it's a good thing, but the people involved have to understand the risks. Thank you, Jay Graham. Did you hear about Abbott's response to Austin City? He's considering absorbing Austin PD into the state. Yeah. It's in the South. He can probably do that. Any recommendations on books about the A word? Emma Goldman. That's probably within the law in Texas for him to be able to do that. Now, I'm not sure how effective it would be, because state laws, if they're state police, they're not going to be able to enforce city ordinances. So I don't know how effective that would be, but it's probably something he can do. Mardil the Faithful, thank you. Anything people outside the states can do? Yeah, be ready to accept refugees. No, um, I don't. I go back and forth. I tend to believe that people are good, so I like to hope that things are going to get better. So I would like to suggest on a day like today, when I'm very optimistic, I would suggest, hey, work on your own community, and we'll meet in the middle once we get all of this sorted out here. Tomorrow I may be thinking something else. Thank you, late customer. Thank you, Stephen James. Thank you, Matt. Do you think there are moles within the organization? I don't know which organization you're talking about, but the answer is probably. There normally are. Thank you, Andre. Just want to take this opportunity to thank you for what you do. Do you think we can have proper police reform without ending the drug war? I think we can start, but if you want to complete it, the drug war has to end. That's the source of a lot of policing for profit. It's a source of a lot of the militarization. Without ending that, it's going to be a lot harder. M1, authoritarian regime coming either way. Maybe. John Whitson, what do you think of African American exodus to Africa? I don't necessarily think it's a good idea. I think that's going to reinforce a lot of the problems. At some point, humanity is going to have to get past this. Now, I mean, I can understand individuals wanting to do it because they don't want to be the one dealing with it, and I guess that makes sense to me. It's easy for me to say, no, stick it out, when it's not me who's being targeted. I think that I think it's something we're going to have to address. So whether it's now or 100 years from now. Samuel Barrow, thank you. Let's talk about the history and hypocrisy of Cuban Americans who vote Republican. That could be a topic, but I would, there are actually some Cuban YouTubers that I think they should handle that. I try to stay within my lane, but there's definitely a historical issue at play there. Thank you, Brian Scotto. Thank you for the daily dose of reason. I try. Thank you, Randy Elena. Any thoughts on how to prepare my teenagers for November? The tribalism in high school is terrifying. I would suggest treating high school like you treat prison. Keep your head down and don't get involved while you're there. If you're in a deep red state, I don't think it would be beneficial for your kids to be publicly very active, because they're just going to make themselves targets. At that point, there's a lot of groupthink, and I don't know. Have them get their political experience outside of that school would be my advice. Thank you, Tony T. Crazy question. I've moved around to various states. It feels like the U.S. should be like the EU instead of one country. There are just fundamental disagreements that don't seem to be solvable. I can definitely understand that. And that's really how we were supposed to be set up. But joke's on us, I guess. Michelle Robin, thank you. Joseph Graney, thank you. I'm a socially conservative person who holds economically leftist positions. How can economic leftists of different social views work together? I think I get what you're saying. You're going to have to decide what's more important. And again, people don't have to agree on everything to work together. You can disagree on some topics and still be allies on others. It's that whole bus concept. you're riding with the bus to a certain point. Thank you, Keith Davies. Thank you, Tom Ashley. Your thoughts on the future of the Lincoln Project. If Trump is defeated, I think those people will become the Republican leaders. I think the Lincoln Project will become the soul of the Republican Party because they will be seen as the ones who can get it back on track. Thank you, MTL Artist. I don't hunt or carry, but I shoot 3-gun. I haven't shot this year. Ammo is too expensive if available. Does the run on ammunition concern you, and why? No, it doesn't. One, because I don't own. Two, because if things get bad, there will be plenty around. During a conflict, you will run out of food, water, medicine, and everything else. You will never run out of ammo and weapons. Thank you, Chris Fields. YouTube lawyer by the name of Legal Eagle has had enough with Trump administration's dodges and is suing the White House, DOJ, and CIA for John Bolton's book not being brought to the impeachment processes. Well, that's interesting. Hope it works out. I mean, that's a unique way of going about it. Thank you, Blade and Brush. First timer here, please keep the good fight. Have a little hope for my 4-year-old daughter today. Robin D, thank you. Could you share why? Yeah, there's a whole there's a whole video on that. I was never accused of that or charged with that. That comes from a blog that somebody put out because I wouldn't interview them. That's why it's anonymous. Most of the stuff in there, if you follow it, none of it checks out. Just fact check it. I mean, that would be my advice. So there's a there's a grain of truth to it. I was working for a company and there was a smuggling aspect that got brought up. But as far as the allegations in that blog, none of them are true. And if you follow the links and everything, you'll see it wasn't even ever alleged, much less charged or convicted of it. Let's see. Thank you, Whisperer Zeta. You think there'll be a big October surprise this year? There always is. I have no clue what it would be, though. Thank you, Kelly Hudson. Thank you, Carl Shoemaker. The Lincoln Party is a great idea. Let there be an end to the Republican Party. Thank you, Step Cat. Have you read Fascism, What It Is, and How to Fight It by Trotsky? I have not. I'm familiar with a title like that. I think that's the one people were talking about. I haven't read it, no. Thank you, Adriana. Proud's busy, but says we have events that are in planning and we need more Patreon Discord support, and you, meaning me, need to show up. And by the way, Adriana is the person that does the Disney Princess shirts that I've been wearing lately. Thank you, T. Perez. Glad I saw this so I could send you another $20. Your stuff always worth it, and I'm using it to try to subvert or educate local people in the community. Yeah, good. I like it. Large scale community building. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Aja Kane. Thank you, Edward Miller. Bo, we never miss an episode and sometimes watch them over again. Hope this and a wooden nickel will get you a cup of coffee. Thank you. All of this stuff goes into hopefully making the channel better. The reason, and I'll get to this here in a second, but we're going to talk about what the Patreon supporters have been able to accomplish. And you're about to see a pretty big uptick in the amount of content and the variety and the different platforms and all kinds of stuff. Caleb Ricks, thank you. Hello. Why not Bernie? If you're asking me personally, I don't endorse politicians as a rule. I I endorse policies. If you're talking about the country and the Democratic Party, why did they go with Biden over Bernie? They showed up to vote. I actually don't think this time, I don't think it was stolen. I think that the centered Democrats showed up to vote in bigger numbers. Let's see. Where's my keys? Cheers. Thank you. Stephen Weaver, thank you. Skunky Love, thank you. 303. Yeah, I like it. Seth Wade, lunch with one past and one living. That's hard. I'm gonna have to come back to that. I don't know. I may turn that into a video. I have no clue. I've never really thought questions like that. I've never really put much thought into. Thank you, Chris Fields. Rudy Giuliani says BLM is Marxist or fascist, but apparently heartbeat bills are not. I think he's lost the plot. I don't. I think people, when you hear Marxist or fascist or whatever, most people don't actually know what they are. And this is going to be the subject of an upcoming video. But I think there's a whole lot of people who really, when they say this, what they're saying is, I'm afraid of authoritarianism. And which is, yeah, that's good, but label it correctly and understand authoritarianism can occur under any system. 569 Tramp, glad I caught you live. Thanks for what you do. Thank you. Meredith Donahue, thank you. Absolutely love your videos. So glad I finally caught a live stream. Keep on putting the truth out there. We need this. I will keep doing this as long as I can. Dan Power, thank you. If Trump loses, do you see standing Republicans doing some major backpedaling or yeah. Oh yeah. Huge. Kay Austin, thank you. I think the older ones will retire and the younger ones will try to remake their image. Thank you, Devin Nunez's cow. Wow. You don't think Obama calling everyone to drop out the night before is not screwing over Biden? I don't. I think it had to do with people not showing up to vote. If that had happened, the endorsements wouldn't matter. Some guy camping. Can I get some good news? Had an argument with my sister, and now she's looking up proof on why Trump is a better choice than Biden. Some good news. So I was talking to my 5-year-old. He overheard, well, I wasn't talking to him. He overheard me explaining the conspiracies around the public health crisis. And he's like, so everybody all over the world is lying to make sure one person loses their job. They're probably pretty bad at their job. So, I mean, look at it that way. Sean Brewer, thank you. Hi, Bo. Any advice on getting my wife to be open to owning a firearm? She's decided that she's afraid of them after growing up in a house with an AR-15. I won't buy one, but she likes being in charge. Yeah, I got nothing. I'm assuming she's fired one if she grew up in a house with one. I don't know. Maybe talk about putting it in a safe. Maybe, I don't know. And I'm one of those people that believes that if you aren't certain, you won't want it. If you aren't certain that you're going to train with it, if you aren't certain of what it's really there for, not get one. So let's see. If you want one and she doesn't, I would definitely talk about securing it. I think that would be your best way to go about it. AEL in 81. You watching the NBA playoffs? I'm not. I don't really I don't watch much sports at all, to be honest. AM1, when do you think everyone will realize the two-party system is a scam? I don't know. I mean, it's been going on a couple hundred years, so I'm not real hopeful in that. Hey, Koch. Thank you. Kara Griffith saying hello from New York City. Appreciate your content. Thank you. Carl Shoemaker. Thank you. Skipped a cup of coffee and gave you $5. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. Are we catching up? Comer Parks. Thank you. Lady Addis. Thank you. Do you think the actual alt-right fascist contingents in the U.S. will recede if Trump loses the election? Yes. I think they'll realize they don't have popular support. They're not going to go away. Understand, they've been here a very long time and they will continue to be here. But I think that they will be more selective in their recruitment. And I think with a different administration, a lot of the stuff that they have done is actually illegal at the federal level. And it hasn't been charged yet because we don't have a DOJ who cares, and we don't have an administration pushing for it. If there was an administration that was serious about taking it on, then you might get movement in that regard, because there's a lot of stuff that the way federal law works, if you and I know that Billy is going to go do something and have helped him even the slightest bit, and Billy goes and does it, we're guilty. And those type of charges, I haven't seen those leveled. And they've got 10 years to do it from the date of incident in most of them. So I do think that, I think they will go back underground. They won't disappear, though. Let's see, Rusty Braids. What would a Harris presidency look like to you? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how she would be at the federal level. You know, there's a big difference between state politics and local politics or federal politics. So I'm not sure. I don't know how she would be. Thank you, Jacob B. Opinions on orgs like the SRA or John Brown. They're good. I mean, you know, they're all localized. So some you're going to find that are bad, like as far as the makeup of the people in them. But from what I have seen, most of them are more effective at all of the things the NRA is supposed to do than the NRA is. Thank you, Shura. Just want to show my appreciation, Bo. Your channel has been a mental anchor against the craziness. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Good friend in Florida has told me Dade and Broward are going blue. It is possible. I don't know that I would say they're going to, but I definitely think it's a possibility. I think Alachua might. I think the one around Jacksonville might. I think Pensacola might. But again, I don't know. I know that the one Bay County in Panama City is kind of leaning that way because of Trump's failed response due to the hurricane. But we'll see. We'll see how much they remember on election day. Thank you, good citizen. Would you consider the smear campaigns against Bernie to be a form of stealing it from him? Now, that's politics. That's politics. I understand that. I understand that this isn't right, but it's the way it is. At the end of the day, I don't see any voting irregularities. So what that means is more people showed up who wanted Biden than wanted Bernie. So, I mean, and I don't know why. I don't know if they really believed that Biden was more electable. I don't know if they just wanted to move back to center and get status quo. I have no idea why that happened. Thank you, Wesley G. Election prediction. First results show Trump winning. He will declare victory. Mail-ins counted. And yeah, that's actually like, that's a worst case scenario, that the in-person voting shows Trump winning and then the mail-in ballots come in and Biden actually wins. That's the worst case scenario. because that is one of those things that could spark violence. I hope that that doesn't occur because that would be a real concern to me. Thank you, Kevin Fisher. Thank you, unit number 5150. How and what election cycle to stop the lesser of two evils voting? I think we're a long way off from that, to be honest. I think that because the power is so entrenched at the top, you are going to continue to get candidates for at least the presidency that are not really what you want. You're voting against something rather than for it. If you want to stop that, you have to get people in the establishment of these parties or create a viable third party. And that takes running people at the base levels, like the House, and letting them move up through the establishment. Thank you, Muffin Hydra. When Trump loses, I will get myself a big bag of popcorn. Greetings from Germany. Currently watching the fall of the Roman Empire live. Yeah, I'm hoping to do a live stream election night and just ride it out with everybody. Thank you, Bad Pirate Monkey. Ahoy from that chatty pirate monkey and her awesome dog. Thank you, Kyle Green. You started this channel burning your son's shoes. Yeah. I started watching the channel after you did start the channel as a spoof. Okay, so yeah, this whole thing started as a joke. Some of my colleagues who didn't know that I had an accent found out I had an accent, and they encouraged me to start a channel. Yeah, it was generally supposed to be a joke, and then I realized that because I had an accent, the social commentary went a lot further with the target demographics, and it became more and more serious. That's also why if you go to the back to the very beginning, especially those that were just on Facebook, I'm really playing up my accent, and now I'm not. But no, I definitely did not expect it to blow up like this, like that. This was a side project that was supposed to be a hobby and something fun for me to do. It just turned out to be way more effective than anything I intentionally did, which is kind of sad, but also good. So, Richard Hutton, thank you. I feel like one of the best ideas you highlight on your channel get lost in the amount of content you create. I feel that way too. At times, you never know you never know which videos are going to pop viral. And 9 times out of 10, what I've realized, the ones that get the most reach are the ones that are not really hitting the deeper topics. But at the same time, I've realized that those that get the most reach bring people to the channel, and then eventually they watch the deeper topics. That's why you'll see me cover the same topic over and over again in different ways to reach the people who had just subscribed to the channel. Thank you, SLR, wondering if y'all are peppers. I'm assuming that's preppers. I think a large portion of the people who watch this channel do prepare. I do not think they're preppers in the sense that like dump bunkers and 600 years of food and stuff like that. But I think most people have a bug out bag of some kind. At least I hope so. Robert Appleton, thank you. I share some of your videos. Thank you for saying the things I'm too ineloquent to cowardly to say. Yeah, it's easy when you're old and just don't care anymore. Thank you, Cheryl D. Thank you, Colleen McIntyre. Thank you, Stephen Weaver. Your thoughts on the recent military polling? As a polling nerd, it gives me hope of a solid Biden win. Long-time listener, first-time caller. The military has been slow to change its mind overall, but this started when Trump sold out the Kurds. That's when the spec ops community was like, we're done with this guy. And there it slowly moved through the regular military, the non-special operations military. And then this latest thing was just icing on the cake. Anybody that was on the fence, I think that decided it for him. But when he abandoned the Kurds, that is when you had Green Berets, SEALs, Rangers, all of these people who had worked with them for years, they were done with him. It was overnight for me. A lot of my friends were supporters of Trump. The next day, they weren't. They were done with him, and they didn't. There was nothing that he could do to win them back at that point. And they all talk, and it moved through the military from there. That was really the turning point. Thank you, Leone Rose. Thank you, Brian Valley. I truly appreciate you and your service to the community. Thank you for continuing to speak logic. I love to learn, and learning each time I listen or read your content. Thank you. Thank you, Random Thoughtism. Thank you, J Dub. Howdy Bo, Oakland, California here. What's your thoughts on Joe 20? I'm assuming that's about Jorgensen. Again, this election, I don't think realistically, I don't think any party is going to play a significant impact, with the exception of maybe Jorgensen, only because there are a lot of Republicans who will refuse to vote Democrat whatsoever, but they really don't want to vote for Trump. So the votes may go there. I think that's it. Let's see. Anthony M. Thank you. Do you think things could go sideways and people might have to consider drastic resistant measures like the French partisan? I mean, that's always a possibility. I don't like to focus on that because I don't want to say we're not near it. I don't like to focus on that. I like to remind people there are other options. There are other ways to go about it. If that happens, it is what it is. And it's not going to be good. Thank you, ARGRTH. You always talk about manuals at archive.org. Can you recommend any in particular? Thanks for your videos. They always seem to call me. So if you go to the military manual section, to the field manual section, what you will find out is they have manuals on everything. Now, like me, if you're talking about being prepared for things to go bad, yeah, get the survival manual, the NBC or CBurn manual. There's field medicine, and then like there's one like soldiers basic tasks and the ranger manual. Read those, and that'll at least give you a base of knowledge to work from. And then anything you're interested in, understand they have manuals on carpentry and, small engine repair. It's really an amazing resource for nonfiction. People overlook it because it's from the military, though. And that website is archive.org for anybody who is curious. Thank you, Lisa F. I look forward to your videos every day. You are my favorite channel. Thank you. RP Geek, thank you. Odds the country survives the next year intact. I'm going to say better than 50%. Bo Batima, thoughts on critical race theory and its accuracy on addressing the problems it claims to solve? Okay, CRT is there to give context. That's really what it is. I think people are misusing it. It is there to give context, to paint a narrative. It's not to show why things may occur. I did a video about this topic earlier this morning, and I didn't realize that CRT was the hot button issue for the other side. At the end of the day, it's a way of evaluating policies and showing them in a light that most people wouldn't see. And I would say that's good. Half this channel is providing context. When it is used in that manner, yeah, it's a good thing. Context is always good. Some guy camping, thank you. This is not for me. Considering Trump won by the House last time and not the popular vote, do you think he will win the House again? I don't know. A lot of the states that he won by, he's not doing well in. So I'm not sure. Thank you, Spike Love. I'm having some tax-free whiskey. I stilled myself. Awesome. Thanks for the kind words to the trans community. Big hugs. Awesome. Thank you. That is one of the best kinds. Sadly, I live in a state where I really can't do that. You can do wine, but can't go beyond that. Can't boil anything. They get really mad down here. Thank you, Chris Field. So BLM is Marxist, but the Unite Right rally is very fine people. Yeah. Oh, I don't understand some of the cognitive dissonance that comes from him. I really don't. Thank you, Devin Nunez's cow. Do you see a conflict of interest with the mainstream media and the Democratic Party leaders like Tom Perez? The fact that a whole bunch of rich people know each other and support each other, that is what it is. I mean, you can find connections like that between Trump and Clinton. I don't foresee it as a huge conflict of interest because I don't really expect much from corporate media. I really don't. I don't go out of my way to trash them, but there's a reason that I don't do it anymore. So thank you, Otis B. No one should ever have to experience racism. Fact. Thank you, Scupple YT. Thank you for inviting us to your mindset. Thank you, Griffin Fuller. Big fan from Oak Park, Illinois. Have your political societal beliefs changed over time? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in 2000, I was 6'2", red, white, and blue, I was always anti-authoritarian, but my views on what that meant changed drastically over time. My social beliefs, they really haven't. I've always believed in the most freedom for the most people, so I don't see many of my social beliefs that have changed. It's more about how they interact with the government. Has this world, is it still fun? Yeah, I love this. I do. Samuel Barrow. Could Article 1, Section 8, 1518 of the Constitution be used to call militia groups who do not follow those guidelines illegal? Also, you should go over the history of Cuba-American relationship. I don't think so. I don't think, because I think that's going to be viewed, like when you get into it, I think it's going to be viewed more as a standard. But since it is the right of the people, yeah, I don't know. That would be one that I would be interested in watching the arguments over. Pauline C., thank you. As a transsexual, I'm finding myself lean more towards being a conservative. Am I going crazy with this chump president? Depends on what you mean by conservative. There's a lot that could mean. If you're leaning towards supporting Trump, I would seriously reevaluate some of his positions. I would go back through and look at what he does, why he does it, when he does it, and go through that, and take a look. I do not feel that most trans people would support Trump based on policy and action. Dave, you have an accent. I do. Ricky the Great One, thank you. Why haven't you spoken openly clearly about ideal international policy? For example, your view on international borders. Did a video on this. The argument on interstate law really changed my mind on that issue. Oh, you're talking about why haven't I gotcha. I don't think so. My ideal world, I understand it's 6 or 7 generations off. Like, it's gonna take a while to get there. I don't see at the end of the day, in order to get there, you have to go through a whole lot of things that people today hold as sacred. When you talk about those societies where you're talking about ultimate freedom and statelessness and all of this stuff, that means things like the American flag don't mean anything anymore. And that's something that would really terrify a lot of people. So I don't see the value in saying in 200 years, this is where we should probably aim to be. This is where we might be if we do things right, because a lot of people are going to oppose it simply based on the values of today, which we can tell from history. The values of today are not going to be the values of 200 years from now. So I don't see a point in creating an argument where there doesn't have to be one. Let's see, Bo, what is the fifth column? Okay, so the fifth column is so the original story is about a general approaching a city, and the city has walls, and he's trying to get it to surrender, and he says, I have 4 columns, one approaching from each direction, north, south, east, and west, and I have a 5th column inside to open the city gates. That's where the story originates. The 5th column in the name of this channel comes from the 5th column news, which was about gatekeeping in the media, which is where a lot of times the media, the mainstream corporate media, tries to keep certain viewpoints out. The idea was to make it more accessible and open the gates. That's where it came from. There are a lot of people that make a lot out of that name that isn't really there. Let's see. Thank you, Darren Dunn. How much do you think the electoral map will change because of the recent Atlantic report? I don't know. I have no idea how much that is going to influence voters. I know that it is influencing a certain subset of veterans. I don't know if that is going to be enough to change the map. Let's see. Thank you, C. Merritt. What are your thoughts on the end the electoral college push? I think it's something that is going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, because we still have a rural-urban divide, which that was kind of the reason it was instituted to begin with, or one of them. And until that's gone, basically, before we get rid of the electoral college, we're going to have to take rural America and make it a little more progressive. We're not there yet. But I do think over time that's something that will happen. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. HP 111. I've got a whole bag of bugs. Got it. TL. Thank you. Thanks for your work. I value your balanced perspective and depth of knowledge. Thank you. Keith Davies, my platoon sergeant back in the day under Clinton was an SF dude. We abandoned them then too. We are the baddies. Yeah. Unit 5150. Your thoughts on untrained people owning an AR-15? Only if they're in the process of becoming trained. I'm one of those people that advocates personal responsibility when it comes to this. And yeah, you have to train. If you're not going to train regularly, you shouldn't own a firearm. That's yeah. I don't think there's not going to be anything that really changes my view on that one. I think I'm pretty well stuck in that. Patrick Shands, thank you. Can you do a maybe I have to look and see if YouTube will even allow that. There are some groups you're not allowed to talk about That may be one. I'll have to look. If I can, I will, and do it soon. Uh, Stephen Noble, love from Berkeley. Any rec for Union history reads? Man, I don't. I don't have any off the top of my head that I can give. Um, Feisty fan, thank you. I don't think I could have gotten through the last 6 months without your videos. Some sane voice goes a long way. Being autoimmune in a pandemic is lonely. Oh my, I bet it is. James Massey, your thoughts on oraclesofunity.org, third-party efforts. Are you available for an interview with them? I haven't gone through that particular site yet. Generally, I'm supportive of third parties. I think that we need them. So, am I available for an interview with them? Maybe right now because of the pandemic. All my kids are at home. Doing any kind of interview is difficult, but that may change here very shortly towards the end of the month. Dorcas George, thank you. Christine, thank you. Jonathan Jackson, have you ever considered having a talk with a YouTuber, Vaush? I love to hear y'all talk. I appreciate your videos. They've helped me grow a lot. This is one that comes up a lot, particularly with him. I think it's a matter of, I think people want to see us argue. And I don't know that that's actually what would happen. I think that this might be very disappointing for people. I mean, I'm up to talking to just about anybody. I don't do internet debates, though. I don't think that they produce the desired results. Thank you, Bill Gates. Howdy, Bo. I'm a Democrat, but share similar views. Common sense. Well, thank you. Thank you, Ron Howell. Is it time to dissolve the Electoral College? I think that it's gonna happen, but I don't think it's gonna happen right now. There's a rural-urban divide that has to be overcome first. Meredith Donahue, thank you. From my fiance Ben, what's your recommendation for a filled pocket manual for Northern England, New England bug out bag? Get the U.S. Army survival manual. It's on archive.org, or you can order it. In fact, I think they actually carry this at like Barnes and Nobles. That's what I would put in there because it covers everywhere. It covers all the climates. Now you can get a cold weather survival manual as well. They're available. But I would stick to U.S. Army field manuals simply because they are designed to be easily understandable. They're designed to build you from zero knowledge to being able to function. And they're designed to appeal to everybody's learning style. So that's one of the reasons that I really kind of push for them. The Desert Scotsman, do you think our national security agencies are monitoring Fox News boards? I think they are, but not to the level that I think more is reactive. I think they look at it as a tool to find the person that did it rather than preempt it. Let's see. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Vinny Pop. Love your channel. Thank you for your commentary. What are your thoughts on the tolerance of intolerance paradox? The whole idea behind being tolerant is not to bow down to anybody who wants to espouse anything. The idea is to establish a framework where people are created or treated equally. Ideas don't need to be treated equally because they're not. Ideas aren't equal. I think that's one of the big problems today is that people want to compromise, and that's not necessarily the case when you're talking about ideas. I have a video. Let's talk about the dangers of being a moderate. I think that might answer the question you're asking in depth. Okay. Thank you, Jasmine Dudley. What are my views on cannabis? I am against prohibition of pretty much everything. I don't smoke. Um, the but I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's immoral. I think it should be decriminalized. Um, so Dan L. Values, thank you for the outstanding content. Thank you. Katie Max, thank you. You are truly live, live and let live and love one another. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Colleen McIntyre. Dove05. Thank you. Do you have a video or can you point me to a video on the conquered, not stolen argument? That's not an argument. Not really. I haven't done I haven't done a video on it, but I can sum it up real quick. There's this concept of, well, it was conquered, so it's okay. That's there's no difference between conquered and stolen. You know, would they say the same thing about a home invasion? Probably not. Well, I conquered this, so it's mine. And yeah, that's a reduction. But even when you're talking about things from a long-standing historical standpoint, when you're talking about nation states, you look at Ireland, Boscaland, Palestine, these places. There is no historical context that suggests that people subject themselves to a conqueror voluntarily. That's not a thing. That argument is not good. Thank you, Carolyn Nolan. Thank you, Keddins. I'm a Marine vet. For the past 4 years, I have lost so many people in my life due to politics. I'm too left or too right. Any thoughts on what to do? Like, all of this will just get worse. Yeah. It's the polarization is the problem there. That's I don't know that there's going to be an end to this anytime soon. It's theoretically possible under Biden that we return to some form of status quo. And if the defeat is sound enough, Republicans will walk back right-wing rhetoric and become more center, and Democrats will become more center-left. But I don't know that I would hold my breath and wait for that. See, Ricky the Great, thank you. Do you feel the rise of automation will make a stateless society impossible or inevitable? Inevitable. I think we may have to go through a purely capitalist stateless society first, which is not going to be good. But I see that as one scenario, not necessarily the ideal one, but it is possible. But I definitely don't think that automation makes it impossible. I think it makes it more probable. Christine M. in Phoenix, they're finding unopened mail parcels in alley. What is the best community platform to use to offer rides to other voters? I do not know. I do not know. And that doesn't, I'll look into that. I have a feeling that's going to be some kind of weird, bizarre exception. There's a lot of legal responsibility for mail carriers. So something like that would be very surprising to me. So I'm going to have to dig into it. Joe in a box. Are things better or worse than you expected the night of the orange the orange manatee got elected? This is kind of what I expected, actually. This is pretty on par. I didn't expect it to be this overt at this point, but I'm glad it was, because I think it stopped it from getting worse. I know that doesn't make sense, but I think his rhetoric may have been a hindrance. Thank you, Gigi Perez. Thank you, Seth. If you had to tell your great grandkids about this time period for a school assignment they're interviewing, how do you think you might talk about America before this election? I have no idea. It depends on what happens between now and then. There's the possibility that, for all of its faults, the America of the 1990s is the pinnacle. That would be bad if that was the case, but it's definitely a possibility. Or this could just be this period under Trump could just be a low point in a correction to getting to something greater, better, which is what I hope it is. Hello, 1814. Is the Atlantic report true? Almost certainly. Almost certainly. Christina Reyes, thank you for being a clear voice in so much manufactured fog. Mandy Sadlow, how do I respond to family members who think mask mandates are against their liberties and they should be able to be responsible for their own health and not wear one? Stop wearing pants. I understand the argument. However, it's the same argument that was used in the U.S. during the Great Influenza. I would show them that we went through the same debate before, and it was those who refused to wear a mask that really triggered the deaths of so many people. There's a whole bunch of different arguments you could make, and I would also suggest, if there are those that talk about liberty and they frame it in the Constitution, and they are people who truly revere the Constitution, I would suggest that wearing a mask is providing for the common defense and promoting the general welfare. It is their constitutional duty as we the people to provide for the common defense. It doesn't just mean a rifle. Seth, thank you. You and the Joe Rogan Experience. Any chance you'd talk to him on air? Yeah. Just a dude, man. Thank you. Wookie Cat, won't you be my neighbor? I bought you a t-shirt, but do not know where to send it. I finally got a P.O. box. People have been asking me for this for literally a year, and I finally have one, and I don't remember the number. I will put this out on Twitter and everywhere, and I'll mention it here in a video soon. But yeah, I finally got a P.O. box. Unit number 5150. What major YouTuber would you like to talk with? Bailey Sarin. She does, I know this completely like out of left field. She does these videos where she's putting on her makeup and talking about true crime. I'm dying to know how she researches. Her research is incredibly good, and she weaves it into a story. If you are a fan of this channel, you probably would really like her channel. I would, if you're a guy, understand, just ignore the makeup stuff. I mean, it's a very, very small fraction of what she does. I would, yeah, it's incredible. Like the amount of research she puts in, and she puts something out about once a week. And it's really good stuff. I'm dying to know how she does her research. That's probably not like, I imagine people were talking about, I imagine this question was probably about political people. I'd like to talk to Cody. I think that would be a fun conversation. But Yeah, I'm more I'm more interested in knowing how she does her research. Jennifer R, thank you. Jacob Orwelski, thank you. Uh, what do you think about the boat parades and Trump's support this weekend? I, I think it's a good analogy. Jonathan Jackson, oh, no, no. I want to see where y'all agree. I think it's be productive. Y'all speak in different ways, could reach a lot more people. Oh, you're talking about Vosh. Yeah, I know I've had questions about whether or not I think some of the language he uses, whether or not it's appropriate, da 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 da. It's not language I would use. It's not language I really condone using. At the same time, if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. I and I know people who will say, "Yeah, I was alt right, alt light," and then I started listening to him, and I'm not. This is what brought me back to sanity. Reinforcing a negative concept to get somebody away from a much worse concept. I, again, it's not a tactic I would use, but I can't condemn it if it works. Like it's not, to me, it's not ideal. It is not ideal, but if it works, it works. So I mean, I understand he gets a lot of heat for some of the stuff that he does, and I think that some of it is deserved on some levels. At the same time, if it's effective and he's willing to take the heat, I mean, it is what it is. I don't. Thank you, AC. Thank you, Carl Shoemaker. I can't tolerate intolerance. Vexing Cat, thank you. Was in Civil Air Patrol as a teen in the 80s. Is this still a good suggestion for youth? I don't know. I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't even know it still exists. I'm familiar with it. They had one, and I actually think I went to a couple of meetings when I was a kid. Um, didn't really take, but I mean, learning to fly, learning about aeronautics it's good. Um, so I'm not familiar with the organization much anymore. So thank you, Susie Pierce Cochran. Yeah. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Vincent. Hi, Bo. Love your content. I live in Belgium. AU, the EU-US relationship has been hurt a lot. Do you think that special relationship will be restored? We are at our best when united. I do. I think that I think that will be a primary concern of Biden's foreign policy when looking at some of the people that he's tapped. If he wins, if he doesn't know, I think it's going to get a whole lot worse. And I think we will probably see a switch to where the EU starts looking more towards Russia for support, which is not ideal. But thank you, Yusuf. Why should we support the Kurds? Isn't it a bad idea to support any group wanting regime change in Syria? The last thing the Middle East needs is regime change. Okay, so I've got a giant video on this where I break all of this down. I'm going to be incredibly presumptuous and go based off your name that you've got a pretty good grasp on the situation. Imagine just the KRG, okay, just that area in Iraq as a Kurdish state. It's already autonomous. It's already Kurdish. Imagine that becoming a Kurdish state. Do you think it would stabilize the surrounding areas where Kurds are, or do you think it would make it worse? It would probably stabilize it. There's no reason fighting if they have a homeland of their own. And I think it would be a stabilizing force. Now, aside from that, I'm biased, incredibly biased on this topic because the Kurdish people were a very strong supporter of a lot of my friends. And so I definitely have a bias. I'm one of those people who didn't like Trump, but this was something that really bothered me. Now, when you're talking about why this impacted the military the way it did, these people were allies. They worked with him daily for years. And then they just got dropped. They got sold out. So that's why it had the impact it did. Thank you, Tanaj. Your thoughts on the video of the yeah, okay, so being bagged, I'm probably going to do a video on that in depth, the Daniel Prude case. Yeah, I'm going to wait to do the whole video. No, there's definitely reason to be in the streets over that one. We'll just leave it there to start with. If you haven't watched it, I actually don't recommend you do, but understand a common tactic that has been widely said is problematic caused a problem and appears to wound up causing a severe issue. But yeah, I'll probably end up doing a video on that. Let's see, Yabits. Thank you, Yabits. Thank you for sharing your Sunday evening with us. Solidarity will get us through. Thank you, AC. What do you think of the USA sanctioning ICC prosecutors investigating war crimes? Wow, I just lost all of that. Oh no. Okay. That's so the U.S. has always pretended that it was exempt from ICC, from the International Criminal Court, and at some point over the last few years, we've just completely started ignoring it, and now we're actively opposing it in a lot of ways and hampering it. It's not a good thing. It's not legal. It's all bad. It's all bad that we are pushing back against the ICC the way we are, and using our foreign policy in that manner. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Let's find where we're at now. Chris Field, sir, you truly do get it. You are invited to the barbecue. Thank you. Fake president, real news vote. Thank you. Yusuf, why should anyone who hates ICE support the military? The military kills and tortures. I've got a glitch going on my phone and I keep losing the questions. Let's see. It's probably going to go to kills and tortures more people. Causes more harm than ICE. So I don't get how one should be abolished and one should be honored. So what you're dealing with now is the ideas of what occurs overseas versus what occurs at home. It's the United States. People who are overseas are viewed as lesser. I mean, that's the reason you have that difference. There are a whole lot of people who are under the abolish ICE umbrella who are definitely under the we don't need our troops anywhere else in the world. We need a defensive military only, who also believe that. I don't think that this is an either or. I think there are a lot of people who will support the military, but not support ICE because it's happening at home and they view war as separate from law enforcement. And I think there are a lot of people who are familiar with war who believe that refugees should be treated well. So even if they support the military, they will oppose ICE. Otis B, what happens after it's past the tipping point at the end of it? Hopefully, acknowledgement, change, and end to what should have never been. Only solution now. I wish I knew what that was in reference to. I mean, that's generally the outcome of pretty much every tipping point, is what you would hope anyway. Mel M, thank you. Hello, 1814. Is the Atlantic report true? I almost certainly. I definitely think that it is. It's been confirmed through a lot of different ways using anonymous sources. And just so everybody knows, an anonymous source doesn't mean that the journalist doesn't know who they are and that it hasn't been confirmed by the editor. It just means they're not releasing the name. And it's been confirmed through a lot of things. It's completely in character for President Trump to have said something like that. So I do believe that it's accurate. Rachel Smith, what are your thoughts on prison abolition? I think that we could probably, I would suggest that, I don't know, 90% of people in custody right now would have a better outcome if they were going through a different form of system. We still have a society that leans heavily towards violence, that doesn't have a lot of the safety net that would be required for that other 10%. So I don't know that we're at the point toward where prison abolition could happen tomorrow, but it's definitely something that we could work towards and we could build towards. And I think that there's a whole lot, a very large portion of the prison population could be released tomorrow without incident if we had the other safety nets in place. So it's definitely something that's possible. We just have to work to achieve it. Pauline C, thank you. Thank you, Bo. The trans community does love you. Thank you. Matthew Werner, thank you. Bo, you talked about civil war in the past. With what I'm seeing in this country, I'm starting to think it will be inevitable. I don't think it's inevitable. I think the more people push the extremes and push that rhetoric, I think it becomes more and more likely. Otis B, metaphorically before. I just thought of how that could come across. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was having a question on how to answer that. Chris Fields, do you think that an ideal theory of wealth is maintained by having a victim in accordance to the beginning of the U.S. white nationalism? I don't think so. I don't think it has to be that way. If I'm understanding the question, I don't think it has to be that way. Texas Moon Runner, I love your life. Please run for president of the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you, James Hickman. I'm interested in your thoughts on the cooperative model of business and employment, as is often spoke by Dr. Richard Wolff, which is a name that people drop to me a lot that I haven't looked into very much, to be honest. And I know that's horrible because I hear this name all the time. But a cooperative model of business and employment. I'm not familiar with exactly what that means in reference Wolf, but generally speaking, there's room for competition and cooperation at the exact same time. What makes markets successful is generally competition. However, the competition is to be first. cooperation can occur at other levels and benefit the consumer and benefit everybody. I think one of the reasons that I don't get into economics very much is because my general belief is that the profit motivator should be removed from most of society. So when it comes to economics, my general beliefs are contrary to what is incredibly popular, and what is generally expected to be talked about when you talk about economics. Thank you, Patrick Litke. Is there an easy access centralized source of military manuals? Yes, archive.org. Also, speaking of the rural urban split, how do you prefer to talk to urban liberals about guns? I don't try to convince people to own. If they aren't ready for it, and they don't want to, I don't think they should. I'm not an advocate for everybody to own a gun. I'm an advocate for, if you choose to, you should be able to. I've got a whole series on this, let's talk about guns, gun control, and blah, 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 blah. And that's how I talk about it. Thank you, Alderman Gomez. Thank you, Dim Studios. Will you make a video on the 5 nations? Yeah, I think I can probably do that. Chris Peace, thank you. How long before AOC runs for president? She's not old enough yet. I think it'll happen. Yes, as in Cody Shody. I wasn't really specific when I said that. But yeah, I definitely believe his level of sarcasm, and I think that would be an entertaining conversation. See, Sharkov 2814. You mean the Bible doesn't do unto others in the front line? No, I'm pretty sure that's not in there. I've looked. I've read it once or twice. I didn't see anything like that. Voices in Espanol. How many T-shirts do you own, and have you ever worn the same T-shirt twice? I have worn the same T-shirts twice, and I have no idea how many I have. And now that it's become a thing, like, I actively look for ones that I can use. It's growing. It's growing pretty quickly. Let's see. Okay. Beth S., thank you. Do you think that Rule 303 applies to... No. No, I do not think that applies to Kyle's actions. I've been trying not to feed into that particular topic because of how hot it got for a moment, and it was so very close to one of those incidents that can occur during a security clampdown that takes everything to the next level. I do not believe that his actions were justified. And I think that that's going to eventually play out and be shown. But yeah, the general concept there is, at least when I say it, is not to make matters worse. It's to make them better. So, Tracy King, thank you. Dave Rollins, thank you. So many questions, but why are they closing down Stars and Stripes? Because the president's budget didn't have the money for it in it. That's going to change. They're not going to allow that to go through. My guess is somebody in the Pentagon didn't want to point it out and just wrote the memo, and now it's going to be overturned. that would be political. Like, that would be the end. If Trump does that and actually scraps Stars and Stripes, he's intentionally trying to lose. Which is a theory some people have put forth because they don't want to. People think that he doesn't want to. People think that he doesn't want to clean up his own mess, is what it boils down to. Keith Davies, war sucks, ice sucks, but we are trained to dehumanize. It works well. Yeah. Silver Knight, thank you. One of my closest friends is a Vietnamese refugee, and I'm terrified for him and his family at the moment. They went through just to get through this. Yeah. I am hoping that when the pendulum swings back, we're going to be in a better place. But we're definitely in a dark time in the United States, and I don't know if we're going to get out of it in just a few months. It may be 4 more years of this, and it may get even worse. Jeremy White, thank you for all you do. We may not always agree, but you are the only person I listen to daily. So there's that. Thank you. And I would imagine that most people, we can't agree on everything. Thank you, Violet. Thank you, Bill Gates. Do you think healthcare should be a service like the post office, military, etc.? I think that it should be universal. I believe that everybody should have access to healthcare. How it is done, there's a bunch of different theories on whether it should be privatized with caps, whether it should be privatized and subsidized, whether it should be nationalized, whether it should be a U.S. government corporation like the post office, whether, like, there's a whole bunch of different theories. I'll go with whatever Z-Dog says if you watch him on YouTube. Seems to be one of the more informed people about reforming healthcare. So my thing is everybody has access, and whatever method is best to achieving that is the one that I'd get behind. Thank you, Brad Franks. Let's talk about media literacy, spotting fake news, and persuasion methods. Thanks, Bo. Okay. I can try to work that in. I could try to bring that up. Sean Burgess, thank you. Do you think Trump would have been able to get this far without Fox News? No. No, I do not. They're driven by clickbait culture, by sensationalism, and he provided that, got the headlines, got the name recognition, and got the votes. No, I do not think that he would be where he is without that. We have to work to combat sensationalism. That's the key element there. Ricky the Great, thank you. Thank you for answering all my questions. What do you think about the view of Yuval Harari's view of working class irrelevance rather than exploitation? What happens when the people lose their leverage? They typically reobtain it through violent means. That's why it's not good that we are where we are. When you're talking about income inequality and the amount of political power that is possessed by the average person and all of this, it's not good. It parallels the French Revolution. And that's, yeah, we definitely, we're either going to have to take a few steps back or we're going to have to go through something really bad. Matthew Nicodemus, thank you. How do I send you a thank you card, case of beer? I have a PO box. I just got it, and I'm going to put it out everywhere so people can get it. Because oddly enough, people want to send me booze and T-shirts, which are two things I'm happy to accept. So, Bad Pirate Monkey. Tom Burton posted an awesome song yesterday. I haven't actually listened to it yet, but I talked to him yesterday. He really does have some good stuff. Keith Davies, if you're trans and wanting a safe place for firearms training, If you get here, I'll teach you for free. My buddies want you safe. Isaac Hempseed, any thoughts on David Graeber and his work? No, not really. I don't. When I read something, I often just take the ideas that are presented in it, and they get blurred with everybody else's, and I try to synthesize and come up with what's best out of everything that I've read. And one of my worries is that I read something and I've combined it with something else, and I say, yeah, this person is wrong because of this. And the reality is that's not something they said, and I'm saying they're wrong over something that I put with it, or they're right because of this, and that's not what they said. I read for information rather than trying to keep the different schools of thought together. So that's why I'm really reluctant to comment on specific people's ideas, because I don't want to misrepresent them. Darwinian realism, thank you. Thoughts on police being armed with military-style weapons? Should they be held to the military-style rules of engagement with harsher punishments? I don't think that most cops should have what they have. I think people need to remember that the S in SWAT stands for special. It's not for everyday situations. If you're using your SWAT team every week, then you're a failure as a chief law enforcement officer. Keith Davies, I do teach firearms. I don't advocate owning them. Noli D, thank you. Kimberly M, thank you. Hey, Bo, you should have heard my brother when I offered him allergy filters. Does your mask have a pocket for them? Voices in Espanol. Bo, when you have a chance, please read this article by Louis DeJoy's rise as a GOP fundraiser fueled by his employees. Otis B. The problem is poor people can't communicate with the world, and it's out of their hands. They're out of money now. Right, but we have social media and we can communicate with each other. And I mean, we don't have the same leverage, but we have the tools to obtain it without going full on, reign of terror, which would be nice. But Daniel Dune, what happens with these donations? I'm just curious as to what it's used for. Donating anyway, because I listen to you every day. Okay, so generally, if you've been watching long enough, we buy PPE and medical supplies. We supply stuff to domestic violence shelters, stuff like that. Generally, this is where it comes from. We're not a charity. We don't keep track of it in that manner, but normally this is where the money that is available to do the good stuff that we do, it normally comes from the live streams. The Patreon tends to fund channel improvements and advancements and getting the message out more, which is what I think the people who subscribe to Patreon will want done with it. And just so everybody knows, come the end of this month, you will see a large uptick in content and frequency and a whole bunch of stuff. And that's because we're finally at the point we have enough people with Patreon to bring in additional people to help manage the day-to-day stuff. And I know that it doesn't seem like there would be a lot, but there really is. There's a lot of stuff that occurs behind the scenes running a channel like this that I never knew was there until I started doing it. And it has become quite a hindrance. So now we have people that will be doing this. And if you're one of those who watch on Facebook or are always wondering why, some videos don't make it, it's because I don't have time to upload them there. We now have somebody who will be doing that. And that's all from Patreon. So all of this stuff gets you, we're not a charity, so it all blends together into one fund, but it gets used for various purposes. And typically what the live stream channel money goes to is normally the charity stuff, the good work stuff. But not always. And to be honest, I don't really keep track of it that much. But what I do know is this stuff, the money here, these live streams are what make it possible to do a lot of the stuff that we do, as far as the community goes. Mike, thank you, Mike. Any shot you could do a video covering U.S. flag code and how it relates? You know what? Yeah, I should definitely do one. I'm going to have to rewatch this whole live stream because there's a whole bunch of ideas in here. I should definitely do one on the flag code. Rachel Smith, thank you. Have you seen the Fifth Column Network on Discord? I haven't been in there. I know that's probably horrible. But I haven't been in there. Let's see. Thank you, Bite. Bo, you're doing extremely critical work. I've worked with guys like you, and I don't ever have to wonder where you stand. Keep fighting. Thank you. Lauren Russell Pink. Thank you. Just thank you for what you do, Bo. We appreciate it. Rocketeer, Bo, what do you think the October surprise will be? Thank you for providing my sanity. I think that with Trump, it will be something along the lines of what we just saw, another scandal like that. And I think Trump will probably trot out some sexual allegation against Biden. I think that's probably where it'll go, but you never know. There's always dirt, or Trump could go the other way with it and, invade some country to try to get that rally around the leader bump in the polls. We don't know. Z-Dog says some really good stuff. Keith Davies, one more pint for you, Bo. Thank you. Anything you can recommend for adult literacy that I struggle with? Johnny Walton. I would, okay. So you obviously have some functional understanding. What I would suggest is not looking for books specifically to help with your literacy. I would look for books that you're interested in reading and work through it that way. So not so much skills based, because if you have a practical understanding, just reading will help, even if it takes a while, even if it's a struggle. If you struggle through it, you'll come out the other side of each book with wider vocabulary, with better understanding, with more ease. So once you have a base knowledge, I would focus on reading stuff that you're interested in. Dim Studios, thank you. I'm 20 now. When I was 15 to 17, I was suicidal. I've managed and handled my depression great for years. I didn't want to own guns for that reason, but I don't know if it's responsible given my past. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know. I think that's something you're going to have to consider very, very, very carefully. And if there is doubt, there is no doubt. If you're worried about it, I wouldn't get one. If you have a place where you can, like, if you feel like you might need one for some emergency scenario, like where everything goes bad, there's nothing saying you can't get it and store it somewhere completely safe out of your immediate range. Store it with a family member who won't give it to you if you're in a bad way. I know a lot of vets who took their collections and gave them to somebody else and put them in a safe so they didn't have access to them. Wow, these questions, they got all serious all of a sudden. Peter Bills, thank you. Was Kyle wrong for putting out a dumpster fire being pushed towards a gas station? Thanks for your perspective on everything you've covered so far. I don't know what this means. I don't know if that's literal or figurative. Manatee, thank you. Ricky the Great, eat the wrench. G Quincy 90. If Trump wins re-election, do you think his supporters will finally see his con when his first term policies take shape? Yeah. And I think that's why there are a whole lot of Republicans who are kind of like, man, I hope he doesn't win. Because all of his economic policies, all of his foreign policy, it's all going to come home during his second term if he wins re-election, and it's not going to be pretty. And it's going to be really bad for the U.S. because he's not going to want to change course because he has a real problem with admitting that he's wrong. Thank you, AC. Direct communication between us commoners that you provide with your presence on this platform is essential for the social change and I believe most people desire in the future. Thank you. That is one of the main reasons I do it, to be honest. Thank you, Tajha Marlowe. Sorry, I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. Thank you for articulating a lot of my feelings on a lot of things better than I can. You're a good being. I haven't heard that in a while. I watched one of your videos where you said it would have been something for everyone to be mad about. I wasn't mad. Thank you, Sally McLaughlin. Thank you, Cheryl Gimke. Thank you, Stephen Brown. Please get the next few months right. We Canadians are shifting uncomfortably. Yes, well, we are too. Thank you, Dalai Lama. Keith David. Ingrid DM me on Twitter at Keith Timber. Thank you, Regina M. Thank you, Lydia Fortner. Thank you, Anthony M. I think we need a breadtuber news network of sorts. Controlling the narrative on a much larger scale could be an incredibly powerful tool. It could be, but getting the personalities of breadtube as a whole to cooperate on much is going to be hard. Thank you, Dim Studios. Thoughts on Woody Guthrie? Love him. John War, thank you. I love your channel. Maybe one day do a Q&A with someone like me, a black man, to get a lot of things explained in a way that only a black person could. Yeah. Bill Gates, get a t-shirt on me. Keith Davies. All right. What's your favorite beer? I drink stouts. I tend to like Guinness type drinks. Other than that, I don't care. I drink whiskey more than anything. And I have preferences, but I don't. I generally like anything that isn't just absolutely horrible. Kimmy Harris, thank you. Meow Anderson, thank you. Thanks so much, Bo. It's great to hear some functional logic live from a stranger. Otis B, thank you. When you're honestly broke, all most people need is a phone. Kenneth Thompson. Hey, Bo, are you still planning to talk doing Let's Really Talk About videos. Yes. Okay. So those were kind of a test to see if people were interested in longer format content. And obviously, yeah. So we will be doing it. A lot of the stuff that's coming will eventually lead to a second channel with a whole lot more produced content that isn't just me talking in the shop, which is definitely not going away. That's something I really enjoy doing. It's something that is kind of the basis of this. But I think there's some things that could be they could be a whole lot better if they were produced. The whole idea we were going to do the tour with the community networking stuff and help people build them. The day I did the video on Blair Mountain, we were literally going to be on Blair Mountain to film it. And that was going to kind of be one of the first ones we were doing like that. But that's something that's coming, but COVID kind of stopped that from happening. Let's see, Jess McDermott, would you consider helping with a basic platform for someone running for a local position like city council? Absolutely. And I think most of the people on this channel would too. Yeah. Bad Power Monkey, things got heavy. Want my dog to do some thoughtful comedy? Yes. Let's see. Goddess Elias, thank you for your videos on gun control. I hadn't recognized the relationship between the planned gun control measures and people control. Jaganok, thank you. Nancy Funk, thank you. Shelby Schroeder, thank you. LF, thank you. Jeremy White, thank you. Does Harris Records scare you as much as it does me? She has a very strong authoritarian streak that does worry me. Yeah. That is a main concern for me, but I don't know how much it's going to matter. Oh, and to be clear, we are definitely not stopping the videos in the shop. It's just stuff in addition to it. And yes, I'll do more Mexi collabs. Cottage Reads, thank you. Thanks for your content. What's your take on people who say they have left the left? I don't even know what that means. You suddenly realize the glories of capitalism. I don't really know what that means when people say that. KKR Malinka, thank you. What are your thoughts on the events unfolding in the Republic of Belarus? I think when there's an authoritarian leader that it is disliked by a large percentage of the population, that's what you get. And I don't see it going away. I see actions like that as more leaders move further right and become more authoritarian. You're going to have more resistance like that on a more frequent level. And yeah, I do think there are some comparisons between there and here. Cool Granddaddy Sweets, thank you. Lost 3 army buddies to politics. Waking, not woke, so having a hard time dealing with my old one-for-one mentally when it comes to body. Yeah. What can I do? Or please. So a lot of, yeah, this is something that happens when you're going through this and you're reevaluating your positions and you are moving in a direction that stops that some of your former peers cannot follow you in. You are going to lose more of them before you start gaining more in your social circle, because they will actively, their presence will keep those other people away, and they will end up stopping you from continuing your evolution. So it's not a bad thing that you end up losing a couple of these guys as you move forward. You're going to. It's part of it. Thank you, Dim Studios. Thoughts on legalization affecting cartel military? Yeah, absolutely. If we ended prohibition here in the U.S., we would cut off the revenue stream for the cartels. That's going to happen. We would either force them into legitimate business, which would be fine, or they just go out of business. More than likely, would be just like the U.S. organized crime, and they would see a massive decline without that trade, the same way alcohol prohibition ended or lessened the effects of U.S. organized crime. Darwinian realism. Here's for the PPE. Also, do you think people understand that cops aren't actually supposed to kill? No, I've realized people do not get this. Cops aren't supposed to kill guilty people either. Like there's this whole due process thing that's supposed to go on. And I've realized the US, we have a real problem with this idea because we've seen too many movies and the good guy or the bad guy always dies at the end. Thank you, Alec. What are your thoughts on other forms of self-defense besides firearms, whether that's your personal community? Thank you for your work. I think anything that helps, that makes you feel better. My dogs have lost their mind. They're over there fighting. Not really fighting, but they're playing. Anything that makes you feel better, anything that makes you feel more effective. If you don't want to carry a firearm, if you want to carry pepper spray or a baton or whatever, yeah, learn how to use it. There are things that are more effective, but that doesn't mean that the other ones are bad or useless. Okay. Vintage games only. Thank you. BC Fine. Thank you. Martel the Faithful. How should civilians talk to veterans? Same way they do everybody else. Don't try to relate. If you're talking about a combat vet, don't try to relate to combat, because it doesn't matter how close whatever it is you can relate it to is. It's not the same, and it's going to be very off-putting to them. Let them relate it to something you know. Eventually, it will happen. Headless Chicken, thank you. Been watching for a long time. A buddy of mine introduced me to your channel last year. Keith Davies, thank you. Okay. All right. So we have made it through all of those. All right. And my phone and everything is going to die here in a matter of seconds. And when that happens, I really can't do this anymore because this is how I read the questions. Shelby Schroeder, thank you. What about dogs for personal protection? Dogs are good for areas, unless you have a very well-trained dog. One of my dogs is incredibly well-trained. The other one, not so much. One I could take somewhere with me and still be an asset. The other one, no, he's just going to handle the yard. And it's definitely a matter of how well-trained they are. Let's see, can you please do this regularly? Yes. This is going to become a regular thing of at least once a month. I'm hoping to do once every other week, but we'll see. All right. Angry. Let's talk about food. Somebody just wants to see me dance in the kitchen. Yeah, we can talk about that at some point. If Trump loses, how likely do you think the Marines will have to remove him? I don't think that's. Well, I don't know. The man's nuts. I have no idea what he's gonna do. Anyway, okay, guys. So that's gonna be it for the day. It was 2 hours long. Thanks for tuning in. And we will just. I guess we'll see you again soon. It's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.